1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Scéalta. My name is Joe Austin. And for those who have just joined us this evening, can I remind you that Scéalta is a joint production of Fáilte Fears to Hear and Feel and Fubble. My guest, who I'll introduce you to in a second, when we were doing the research on her, we thought we would get a small body of work, and we thought we'd be able to, in one quick sentence, to explain what she does for a living and for life. Unfortunately, her body of work is more considerable than we had anticipated. So it's Amanda Ferguson. She's a journalist, a podcaster, a broadcaster. I don't know of any paper or media outlet in Ireland and further fields that she hasn't contributed to. So rather than read them out, I'm going to admit the ones that she doesn't. She's everything going for her. She's at the top of her trade. And more importantly, she's from North Belfast, as am I.
Yeah.
Not that that would influence me, but it does. So, Amanda, two things. First of all, you've just finished another interview and you've rushed to do this one. So thank you. I know that you're sitting in a room which the heat is unbelievable, as am I. So let's dispense with any of the niceties. Thank you. So, Amanda Ferguson, journalist extraordinaire.
Thank you very much. It's a very sort of complimentary intro. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to live up to it or not, but the North Belfast bit's true. That has to be, that has to be said. Whenever you're from Belfast, you don't just say you're from Belfast. You have to tell everybody what bit. And I love North Belfast, so thank you for including that.
Well, I have to say I'm biased, and I love North Belfast, and I'm at a stage in my life where I've lived outside of North Belfast longer than I actually lived there. But when I go back, it's like I never left. So, it's just that atmosphere, that feeling. It's suffered terribly as a result of conflict, but it's a very special place. So you know all of that. I'm talking to the converted.
Definitely. It's kind of the only place I really feel at home. Like I lived in North Belfast up until I was 19, and then I went to Glasgow for university, and I loved it over there. Like it's, that's my favorite place on the other island. But I tried living in Cathedral Quarter and different bits or whatever, but had to get back up the Antrim Road because it definitely just is where I feel at home. And you are right about what you're saying about the sort of difficulties that we've had, and we tend to sort of make the news a lot for the interfaces and for the difficulties and for the challenging times, but it's also been where some of the best cross-community work has happened because it's not that kind of single identity place. I love it. Like I love being from this part of town. We just need a few more bars and cafes. That'd be good.
Well, let's work on that. The Antrim Road, by the way, should be populated with outside cafes and bars and all of that. The same way that the Lisburn Road and other parts of the city, it's ready made for it. Even the tree lines, even all of that. But anyway, we'll deal with that in a wee second. I really am serious in terms of looking at the body of work and looking at the papers and broadcasting agencies that you've made a contribution to. And I have to say that I'm old-fashioned enough to know that not that long ago, these were all populated by older men, quite happy, and smokers and drinkers, and people who modeled themselves more on what an American journalist looked like or behaved like than really somebody homegrown. What was the journey? How did you get into journalism?
Well, I kind of grew up around journalists, and my mum had always wanted me to do it for a job. My mum Fiona, she was very encouraging of that idea, and it kind of was something that I was going to pursue. But whenever I was towards the end of my A levels at school, there were different things going on, different challenges or whatever, and I ended up taking a different route. So I did marketing and communication for whatever random reason, and that has actually helped in my career a bit. Although the sort of the most useful qualification is the one that I got from the tech. I'm old enough to be able to call it the tech, is now Belfast Met. So I did my degree, and then I entered the world of work, and I got one of those jobs for a Quango that was, good holidays and decent enough pay for starting out, and, pension and all the rest. And I was so bored. It was soul destroying, and I really didn't enjoy it at all. And then I was doing kind of temping stuff, and I decided whenever I was 29 and a half, well, more my mind and my body decided for me that I'd never really thought about age before. And then I started panicking because it was like, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. You know, if I don't go and do this journalism thing now, you know, it's going to pass me by and I'm getting so old and all the rest of this stuff. So I applied for the newspaper journalism course at the Belfast Met at Millfield, and I found out on my 30th birthday that I'd got onto the course. I remember cycling along, you know, past Hazelbank, you know, with the wind in my hair, the sun on my skin, just thinking this is my life's going to change here, and it has done. You know, I did the course. I did my placement at the Telegraph. So it had been that most of the people were doing their placements in January, February, March. And I was kind of easy about where I did my placement. I didn't mind. I was like, you know, I don't, you know, people were fighting to get to the daily papers, but I was like, I don't really care where I'm going. I was just happy that I was going to be doing something that wasn't a job that I hated. And the course lecturer said to me, look, I think you would be better going to one of the dailies. So if you don't mind missing the sub-editing part of the course in April, we're going to send you to the Telegraph for a month. And I was like, oh, great, that's dead on. So I went there, you know, made quite a big impact in my first month, you know, got some stories that were picked up by columnists and by radio. And I was thinking, you know, I was sitting in the newsroom and it was like, whose story is that? And it was like the placement student in the corner. I was like, hi, you know. So for the first year I worked only for the Belfast Telegraph, although my late Nana Alice, she was born in 1920, she called it Baird's Telegraph, because that's what it was whenever she was around. So you would tell, although she was a Mirror woman, she was Alice was strictly a Daily Mirror woman, but she was pleased that I was working for Baird's Telegraph. And then after the first year, I was given advice from my uncle. Actually, he said to me, you know, if you're going to be freelance and you're not going to pursue it as staff, you're better off not putting all your eggs in one basket, and you might want to branch out a little bit. So kind of one of the very few times that I've actually pursued work, I emailed the Mirror and said, you know, I hear you have a freelance register, you know, I'd be interested in that. You know, if you're interested in looking at any of my work, I've got a story on the front page of today's Belfast Telegraph. And I got an email back from Jerry Miller saying, I like your style, come on in and chat to me. So I started doing stuff there. And then from then on, it was kind of word of mouth, you know, where people were recommending me for stuff. So I started doing stuff for Sunday Times, and then I started, you know, doing little bits for some of the weekend papers and different things. And I was approached to do broadcast stuff quite early in my career, and I turned it down because I didn't think I was interested in it. And then sort of a couple of years into it, you know, I decided, okay, well, you know, I do like talking and people want me to talk about stuff, so I'll try that. And the commentary stuff has sort of moved into, I still do commentary, but also do reporting stuff as well. So I was approached to do Irish Times stuff in 2014, and I did that for about 6 years, covering for the Northern editor and doing their Northern Corps stuff. And then I've been working for Reuters since 2015 as Northern Ireland correspondent, doing like a job share. And then in 2018, I got an email from the London bureau of the Washington Post asking me would I be interested in working for them. And I was like, I don't know how like quick I can reply to this email to say yes, thank you very much. I would very much like that. So I've been doing their Ireland stuff for the last couple of years. It tends to be big things, but it's you know, it's a good gig to have as well. And then yeah, just like, you know, people approach me to do stuff, or you know, I've started doing a bit more sort of like event hosting and chairing and panels and all that sort of crack. So I love the variety that brings. It would have to be a really extremely well paid gig that would pull me away from working for myself.
You went through that very quickly, I have to say, and they also went through it very modestly. And the obvious thing is that the reason that you're in demand is that you're particularly good at your job. I asked someone last night, a journalist, who I, under pain of death, I can't divulge. Right. And they said two things about you. How diligent you were pursuing a story, and how detailed you were with the knowledge of what you were writing. So it just wasn't like a casual grabbing of some of the facts and then writing the story around it, that you had this ability. And they said this very annoying ability to be good. She's just very good. But you mentioned earlier on that you, and this is just for those who maybe don't have the insight that I would have, but you mentioned that you had grown up around journalism. Can you explain that a wee bit for those that don't know?
Look, well, yeah, just like I have some journalists within my family and in my mum and family's sort of social circle. So I would have been aware of what being a journalist involved and how exciting it was. So there was sort of exposure to that. So it was never something that I felt that was cut off to me, but it was just kind of family circumstances that led me not to pursue it. But it is like, it's very kind what you're saying and what your secret source is saying as well. But it is a mixture, you know, not to be, I try to get the balance right between, you know, being modest and just being honest about it. I know that I have a certain level of talent, but there is also a sprinkle of luck involved in that. And I do work very, very hard. You know, you can wing it, and sometimes, you know, you do have to wing it, but I do like being prepared. I do like, you know, having all the information and making sure that I get it right, which is what we're supposed to do. So that's kind of, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not very good with the compliment side of stuff. I don't know.
Well, lots of people are not, but you should do, you know. I think people should, I think there's a degree of modesty that's very becoming. But I think when people are good at any field, whatever they do, they should just accept the compliment. I think that's just where it goes. But you mentioned being the temp in the corner while you were in the Telegraph, and we've all got to start at somewhere. It's more difficult, obviously, for a woman being a temp at anything, because I think women suffer from all the discrimination that remains out there. Wee bit better, but not a great bit better. Was it a male-dominated Telegraph that you went into? Was it the remnants of the 70s, 80s journalistic?
There was quite a lot of female reporters. There wasn't that many women in senior positions, but that wasn't something that I really felt. One of the problems that I had was that I kind of felt as if I was being pushed into just the sort of news and the news feature and some of the lighter side of stuff when I wanted to actually do politics. So I didn't really get the opportunity to do that as much as I would like to, although you were having to do the sort of hard news of the day as it was happening. And the variety of what I got to do there was great, and I enjoyed it. Like you know, maybe I was a little bit naive whenever I went in, that, you know, I was just really happy that I was always in the front page, or always on, you know, page 3, or always having a prominent, you know, something or other. And in my head, I didn't sort of piece together that before I was doing that, somebody else might have been doing that. So I kind of didn't, you know, I wasn't sort of going out of my way to annoy anybody or anything, but I have made some very good friends from the telly. You know, I still have, you know, very close friends there, but I kind of, after 6 years, you know, I maybe should have left after 4, but it was kind of like an attachment. So I was doing everything that I could to ease myself out a little bit, you know, like taking shifts at the Irish News, you know, like making myself a little bit difficult. And then whenever the change of editor came, whenever Mike Gilson was leaving, I kind of sort of faded out the door a little bit after that. And then I've actually started doing a wee bit more features for them, which was something that I didn't really get to do in the 6 years that I was there at the start. So I've been doing that a wee bit more now, because I do like, you know, talking to people and like human stories and kind of news featurey stuff. So I've been doing a wee bit more of that. But yeah, it's like, you know, like the Sunday Independent have contacted me for stuff, you know, New Statesman, Guardian, at different points in my career, different people have been in touch to get me to do things for them, and I've really enjoyed it. Like, you know, I hope that I've reflected the sort of complexity of us, because it is quite you know, I sometimes say I would have made a good primary school teacher, because my different clients that I have different audiences with different levels of understanding. So, you know, what I'll talk about or what I'll write about changes depending on who you know, the piece might be for, and what their sort of grasp of who we are is, because we are complex. And I know that, like, you know, maybe we sometimes think we're the center of the universe, but that's probably because we are.
Not even North Belfast is the center of the universe. Can you remember your first byline?
Yes. It was a story about a water spout, which is like a tornado above water. And a couple, the Dunlops, from somewhere up the north coast, had spotted this, you know, out their window when they were, I think it was they were a B&B or something, and they were making breakfast, and they ran outside and took a photograph of it. So I rode around that, interviewed them, and then got the sort of like the weather expert people and the scientists to tell me what was going on. So it was actually very good training, because I arrived on the Easter Monday, and I started at the 7:30 shift, and that was whenever they still had sort of mid-morning and lunchtime editions. So you had to learn to work fast very quickly. And I remember whenever I filed my first story, the news editor that was working that morning, was a girl called Claire Harrison, was just like, she was like, right. And she was like, this has got everything that we need. And I was like, oh, right, is this good? And she was like, yes, this is very good. And I was like, right, okay. That's encouraging. Thanks very much. So I did hit the ground, not to say that I didn't have to like learn and sort of like create my own style and craft it, but I sort of was able to hit the ground running, which was probably why my lecturer had wanted me to go to a daily. So I missed the opportunity of working for a weekly. I know that most of the journalists that I talked to have worked for weekly said it was a really good sort of grounding experience within journalism, but I've never had that.
You mightn't want to answer this question, but I have to ask you. When you knew that you had your byline, when you knew that it was going to copy, when you knew that it was, did you ring people to say, listen, that's my story?
Oh yeah, like my mom is like, Fiona is my #1 fan. Like she, like even now, every time I'm doing something, and sometimes I could be maybe speaking on the radio, 4, 5, 6 times a day. Fiona wants a message, let her know what time, what channel, what station, whatever, and she'll listen in and she'll tell me when, if she thinks I've done anything wrong, but usually just to say, thumbs up or whatever. So yeah, that's still, yeah, it's a real buzz. Like, I think my first byline at the telly, my first front page of the Sunday Times, the first front page of the Washington Post, like all those things are all in a big folder somewhere. My brother started off keeping Ryan, he started off keeping a scrapbook of my stuff at the start, and then I just became too much for him to keep up with. But I still have all those fronts that are in a folder somewhere, and I keep meaning to get them framed just to have a wee sort of document of what I've been doing over the years, but I haven't got around to it yet, which says a lot about me.
I was reading recently an American author, a guy called Damien Bunyan, and he featured sometime 1930s or 40s. And he talks about sports correspondence and in America now, and boxing correspondence, and he's asked about what makes a good journalist, and he said long cigars and plenty of bourbon. Of course, none of the two apply to you. But are you inquisitive by nature?
Am I nosy? Yes. Yeah.
No, you see, I wouldn't have said nosy.
Yeah, no, I am. I like talking. I like finding stuff out. I like people. And I like writing, and I like the chat and the crack and finding out what's going on, and the sort of conversations that between me and my friends and between me and my family are legendary for the just insatiable appetite for the chat. And it's funny because my partner Paddy would be on the quieter side of things, so we probably balance each other out, where he could be quite happy with being quiet for long periods of time. I'm just itching to talk. Like, I find it a real challenge to keep quiet.
There's a wee bit of a contradiction, and I should let you into this, but I asked again people who had known you quite a long time from you were a young girl, and they were saying that growing up you were very quiet. You were someone who was, I wouldn't say odd, that's the wrong expression, but you weren't someone who made other people's business your business. Is that a fair? Is that?
Oh, I don't know. I'd be interested to know who you're talking to. I've always been like chatty. I've always been sort of like reasonably outgoing, but I don't know. I'm not really sure that that's a. Maybe my mum might be better off to
maybe it was them. Maybe it was them you weren't talking to. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I've always been like, I've always had lots of friends from different groups and stuff like that. Definitely more outgoing than maybe louder than my siblings or whatever. But we all have the same sort of like sort of hard, or we're all hardworking, and we all like crack as well. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure I recognize being quiet. But I'm in quite well. I suppose
maybe quiet was another word for reserved. Maybe they just meant you were reserved.
I don't know. I've always been a bit of an idiot. I don't know.
I couldn't possibly agree on that.
I'm dying to know who all your sources are. I was so tempted to ask you what you were going to ask me today, but I resisted because I hate that whenever someone does it to me.
If I was asking you your sources, you definitely wouldn't tell me. We mentioned, both of us mentioned North Belfast, and we both have a love of North Belfast with all its problems and complexities. Was it a good place for you growing up as a teenager?
Yeah, I think it was. Like, I grew up in Bristol Avenue, just off the Lansdowne Road. So it was kind of like the, I don't know, sort of the middle class, cross community, more so Catholic bit of town. You know, a lot of sort of mixed marriagey people, professional people. You know, Brian Feeney was my next door neighbor growing up, so it's been a real buzz for me, you know, sharing panels with him, because to me, growing up, he was Mr. Feeney. You know, he was, you know, he'll not mind me saying he was a wee bit on the grumpy side of things. I'm sure the Irish news readers would identify with that, but very smart man. He would have helped me with my you know, homework or whatever, or any questions that I had. So he would have been in there. And my best mate Ruth lived across the road from me. Her dad was a teacher at BRA, the secondary school that I ended up going to, and she was kind of the reverse of me, where my mum was Catholic and my dad was Protestant, and her mum was Protestant and her dad was Catholic. So it was a very sort of cross community place. You know, one of my childhood friends, Nikki, her parents were biology lecturers at the Tech and stuff, and they were kind of hippies and, you know, pretty cool people. But yeah, like, you know, I enjoyed growing up where I did. You know, there was very much like, I was born in the second half of 1979, so grew up in the 80s and 90s, and there was always a sense, because, you know, North Belfast is this patchwork of, you know, working class, middle class, interface areas, all on top of each other and all in very sort of short distance from each other, that you knew where you could and couldn't go to, where you could and couldn't walk to, and, you know, where you may be at risk and where you wouldn't. But yeah, like, even though, you know, like, I didn't grow up in specifically in an interface area, like, certainly the part of North Belfast that I'm from, you know, experienced a lot of the difficulties and trauma of the Troubles as well. But, you know, as a kid, I was just on my bike and messing around, and I went to St. Therese of Lisieux Primary School, and it was originally on the Somerton Road, beside where the Bishops is, where the church is, where I was baptized and all that. And then it was whenever the old porta cabins were still down in the grounds of where the church is in Little Flower and Fort William, and then the school moved up onto the Antrim Road. And you used to have to go through Barney, which is now, well, Barnegeha, it's now Trinity College or whatever. So as a kid, you know, I would have walked to school in my St. Therese, my Jaffa Cakes uniform. That's another thing that's changed. It's now a brown and blue uniform, but whenever I was there, it was brown and orange, which was very character building. So our nickname was Jaffa Cakes. And, you know, walking through, you know, the up through Barney onto the Antrim Road, like, you know, like, sometimes the kids from Castle High at the time, you know, because we were the Catholic kids, they would have thrown stones at us and things like that. But then whenever I went to BRA, which was further down the Antrim Road up to Cliftonville, I was then walking back the same place in my long grey skirt in the Protestant school uniform, and then I was getting chased for that. So I did kind of get like a little bit of a flavor of what it's like to experience sectarianism both ways. But certainly having a very cross-community upbringing, I think, has been really useful to who I am as a person, you know, and also in my work as a journalist as well, because maybe some things that fluster other people don't really bother me.
I know that Brian Feeney just watches this program every week and wouldn't miss it. So you have insulted him. So I might as well join in the kicking. Quite often I get mistaken for Brian Feeney. There's a bit of a similarity. I think I'm rather taller than him and have just slightly more hair than him. But anyway, so just that he's watching, I've taken more credit for the articles he's written than he gets. And secondly, when people tell me in the Belfast manner, that's a lot of whatever, I say, I'm not Brian Feeney.
Yeah.
I'm mixed up with somebody else. So we've both managed them. You talked about that period in the 70s and into the 80s. And, you know, as Charles Dickens said, it was the best of times and the worst of times. For someone who's gone into journalism, for someone who, and I think it's only a matter of time, by the way, before you start producing books. So just let me make that, I can be I can be the one that says, I told you so.
I have something in mind.
I think there's a couple of good books at least in there. But Belfast and North Belfast is full of subject matters, full of things that you could write about. Whether any of us ever do them justice is another day's work. But do you look at life through the eyes of a journalist? Do you look at life and go, I should return to that. That should be a sub. Or can you look at life, like, can you go home at 8 o'clock, flick the shoes off, get the coffee, open a bottle of red wine, and just enjoy something? Or is that journalistic approach, is the clock always ticking?
Yeah, I think it's always there. It could be hard to sort of switch off or wind down or relax from it, particularly when you work for yourself as well. It's not, I have no idea what proper holidays are, or the days that everybody knows that they're going to be off are usually the busiest days for us. But I think that whenever you're starting off, you're told, if you're thinking about stories, think of the people that think of where you're from and that sort of thing. And I think that's a constant that keeps coming up through the work that I'm doing. I sometimes say a lot of the best stories are the ones that are never told. So there is this sort of sense that sometimes when something happens, you're like, oh, that would be a story, and they're like, actually no, it's just keep it to yourself and keep it down or whatever. But it is something you're constantly thinking about. And I think that the only thing that well, not maybe the only thing, but one of the negatives that I've identified in this journey as a journalist is that I used to read a lot for pleasure. I used to read all the time, like that was my thing. If stuff was weird in the house or I wanted to get away, I'd take myself up to Chichester Library and just read through books and constantly. And that was something that featured into my uni years and into my 20s. And then since I've been a journalist, I don't really do that anymore, because I think it's because I'm consuming so much information all the time and I'm reading all the time for work that it's kind of, I haven't really made time to read for pleasure. Although, and another thing that's happened as well, which is a theme, is that I don't read fiction anymore. All of the books that I buy are non-fiction, and that's definitely a theme. I don't read fiction or anything like that. And even whenever it comes down to TV, because I am watching Love Island at the minute, and I know that people are slagging me off for it as well, but it's kind of like a sort of like a bubblegum escape from all of the harder news and sort of real life type programs that I do. So all of the box sets and series that everybody has seen, I haven't watched an episode of any of them, so I don't know.
Journalists are loved and hated in equal ferocity, sorry. And we although we have had journalists killed during the conflict, in recent period, not that long ago, we have had journalists who have been trolled, and it's been substantial and ongoing and all of that. We've had journalists who have been arrested and raids and all of that. Is that anything that's you're mindful of? And I know I'm not talking about sources and protecting sources, all of which you would be expected to do, but do you have any sense that you can't please everybody?
Oh yeah, you're never going to please everyone, and not everyone's going to like you. I think one of the most frustrating parts of it on a personal level for the trolling side of stuff is the misrepresentation. And sometimes it can feel like harassment. But I wouldn't want to put off younger women from wanting to be journalists, because I think this isn't just unique to journalism. I think it's any woman that has a voice. I think that the internet hasn't made people abusive scumbags. I think it's just given abusive scumbags another platform, and it can be challenging. Like my favorite days are the days where I'm accused of being the two opposites on the same day. We're like, both can't be right. I think that I'm confident in myself and who I am, that people who would attempt to try and uncover me as some sort of like secret sectarian or some undercover whatever, they're going to be mistaken and they're going to be disappointed for the rest of their lives, because I am genuinely what it says on the tin, and I am trying to sort of be representative and be someone who's looking at all of the angles, and I hope that most people can see that through my work. So even though it's frustrating and it's it can be upsetting at times, it is the minority of people who are in contact. Obviously, whenever it moves into more serious threats and things like that, then it becomes a more major issue. And through the NUJ and other avenues, the avenues to kind of campaign over things like that, which is something that I'm quite no matter what job I've had since I was a teenager, I've always been part of trade unions. I think they're really important. I just can't grasp why anybody wouldn't be part of a union. But
no, and listen, this has been recorded in the Connolly Centre, so we obviously are pro-union in our outlook on life. The reason I've asked you that question, and it isn't because I have any doubt that you stand up and you stand over what you write and what you say to the best of your ability. I sometimes feel that people in your profession, because they're out front, because you mentioned earlier on that you're doing more television work, you're doing more radio work, you're doing more, and that will increase. I guarantee you that'll increase. Do you get accosted in Tesco's where you're trying to buy a tin of beans by somebody went, yeah, but what you never mentioned? Is that happened yet?
It does happen sometimes, but more so, you're Amanda from Twitter, and I'm like, yes, I exist in real life as well. Okay, that's it's not it's a bit odd, it's a bit unusual because I'm just sort of doing my thing and being me or whatever. It's like, I'm not Lady Gaga or whatever, so I don't have to worry about wearing dark shades whenever I'm out and about. But I enjoy the different ways of communicating with people through the work that I do. I love it for all the bad parts of social media. I love it. It was definitely something I used a lot in my early career, like an early adopter as such, to get things done. And it's great. Like most people who are in touch are sound. It's the only reason I don't have my channel set up to sort of block everybody or not hear from everybody that I'm not following, is because I would miss that crack and that interaction with people. So yeah, like I like talking to people. Like I know this is only an hour today, but we could probably spend all day having a chat.
And I showed you these earlier on, but these are the pages of research that I have been given to kind of ask you questions on, and
right.
there are thousands. And if I was to list all the journals that you make a contribution to, we wouldn't do an interview, we wouldn't have a conversation. It would be a list of credits. Can I ask you, you mentioned this and it maybe goes with a job of looking at things through journalistic eyes, looking at things and and saying, not if there's a story, if there's accuracy, if it's well written. Do you have a preference between broadcasting and writing, or is it all much the same?
Starting off, I preferred writing for newspapers in particular. I think it was my work with Reuters has been really interesting because depending on the nature of the story, it's very much a collaborative process. So, I could be, turning up at Stormont for a press conference or outside court for a press conference, and there'll be a sort of team of us on WhatsApp, and I'll be feeding lines of what's being said so that it can go out onto the news wires really, really quickly, sort of snapping information to them and recording it at the same time. So it is a skill in that you're having to relay information and listen for the next bit of information at the same time. So speed is really important to Reuters. And also, if I'm at a scene, and I've finished doing the sort of snapping stuff on the phone, the audio that I've recorded will be sent to the desk straight away. So I may not necessarily have to transcribe, the questions and answers. So sometimes a story that I've done for Reuters could be online and beamed all over the world before colleagues have started typing on their laptop. So it's a different set of, it's a different set of skills, but it's certainly, it seems very efficient the way that they do it. And I've enjoyed that. I enjoy working, even though I don't sort of want to be a staffer anywhere, I enjoy working with different teams and different groups of people and building up relationships with them. I think seeing your name on the front page of a newspaper, there's still a real kick out of that. But I do enjoy doing the stuff for, digital outlets, and, like sort of random places that want to get in touch with you. So I don't think that I have I think I like a little bit of everything. I think I like a little flavor of everything, because even in the broadcast stuff that I'm doing, sometimes it's commentary and sometimes it's reporting. So, it's sort of different skills, different uses of your time. And I think I like that variety. I think that, like doing something like this, talking to you, or, being on a panel, or being at a festival event, or chairing a conference, or, writing something or speaking to someone. I do enjoy the process of doing pieces where you get to invest time. So for a piece that I did for the Washington Post for the sort of pandemic sort of response and all the rest of that was interesting. The sort of pursuit of a story about what pubs mean to Belfast people, what they mean to Irish culture. That was interesting, because you were getting to go around lots of different places and chat to people and have a wee drink on the way as well, and really sort of try and tell a story from a different sort of angle. So it's probably, you'll probably have some people that, they're, newspaper to their bones, or broadcast to their bones, or, really just enjoy one particular type of thing. But I do like that variety. Even the producing stuff that I do, if I'm working with another crew, setting up a really lovely timetable of interviewees and doing that, I enjoy that sort of stuff as well.
You mentioned Paddy, Paddy.
Yeah.
Do you still read everything to him before you put it out? Is he your sounding board?
No, not necessarily. He is sometimes, whenever I sometimes he helps me tone myself back a little bit. But no, like I think that he doesn't, like, my mom is the one person who listens to everything that I do. Whereas I think Paddy gets nervous on my behalf whenever I'm doing that sort of stuff. So it's not kind of something. It does make him smile though whenever he sees me popping up in places. But no, I'll sometimes just double check with him, does that sound all right? And he's like, yes, sounds grand, or work away or whatever. So he's pretty sort of chilled and calm kind of person. So I think that is probably why we work very well, because whenever I'm getting too carried away with something, he'll just sort of help me chill down a wee bit about it.
So outside of yourself, would your mother be your most active critic?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. She'll probably be saying that my hair doesn't look tidy enough in this, but she's always very complimentary about what I'm doing. Like my mom didn't get to have the education that she probably deserved. So I think that all of our successes academically or career wise, we want to share those with mom, because she is like our number one sort of champion. Like nothing was ever sort of out of bounds, or nothing, you do whatever you want. And she's very good. I think she I laugh at her though, because she's so proud of all of our teeth. Yeah. So she always says to me, smile more, make sure that they can see your teeth. And I'm like, Mom, if I'm doing a political report, I can't grin like a Cheshire cat. Like the teeth will just be visible when they're visible. But yeah, no, she's great. Like she's very pleased that I have good grammar. That's something that's very important to her. But she does sometimes tell me to slow down a little bit. Which that's kind of it's hard to whenever you're trying to squeeze as much information in as possible.
Well, I have a granddaughter who speaks faster than both of us, and when I had said to her, I would say the same things your mother says, you need to slow it down, and she said, I speak fast because I think very quickly. And she may be true, it may be right. But is your mother, when Mark Crothers is sharp with you, is your mother that one of those that says, I don't know what that was about, I don't know what was wrong with him, why he was talking to you like that? Or does she just like an analytical view of it?
A mixture of things. Sometimes whenever I'm doing like
Mark is only an example, by the way, Mark. It's only
no, it's sometimes whenever I'm doing something where someone's giving the opposing view, she'll be quite colourful in her message about what's just been said. But no,
mothers are entitled to be colourful.
Yeah. So no, it's mainly just to sort of like, because she's interested to know, and she wants to tell her mates, and she's proud of what I'm doing. So I thought she would have waned, you know, in her appetite to know what I'm doing next, but no, she wants to know. And also as well, she's like me, or I'm like her. She loves the biz, you know, she loves all the crack and all the chat or whatever. So it's nice to have her part of that, because, you know, I definitely feel as if you know, any achievements or successes I have are hers, because I wouldn't have been able to do the journalism course without her support, because the year I did it, they doubled the fees and I wasn't going to be able to afford to do it, and she helped me out with that, and that's, you know, that completely transformed my life from working and not enjoying what I was doing to sort of retraining as a mature student. And I think as a mature student you're keener, because, you know, you still have a mortgage, you still have whatever. So you know, I remember working full time on the course, and then as soon as whatever time we were finished, whether it was 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock or the end of the day, I would go straight to one of my part-time jobs. So I had 3 different part-time jobs you know, while I was doing that. And I just think, you see, to be honest, whenever, I don't think that you need to do an undergraduate degree in journalism. I don't think you need to do a 4-year course in it. I always advise students, or whoever asks me about this, do the degree that you want and that you would enjoy and you would feel nourished by, and then top it up with a 1-year, you know, something in journalism, because I really don't think that it requires 4 years of training to get it done. Like I just don't see it, but it's certainly you know, it's certainly a very worthwhile and enjoyable career. And I think when you've had jobs that you've hated and you've done real work, that even though it can be stressful and mentally exhausting, and, you know, sometimes somebody could only hear you for 3 minutes and you're being paid just for, like, you know, 3 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, but it takes, like, knowing what's happened all that day and, you know, keeping abreast of it all, you know. So it's not, you know, if if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
I want to move on till what the things that aren't working, if there are any things that aren't working. But I want to warn you, and you should be made aware of this. Whenever you're a best-selling author, it'll be your mother to be saying, "That's my wee girl. That's my wee girl wrote that." So rather than your mother wane in her enthusiasm for your work, it'll get worse or better, depending on how you describe it. And I want to return, of course, to journalism. When you're not working, whenever that may be, can you relax? And if you can, how do you relax?
Yeah, no, I'm good at doing nothing, which is probably why my flat's a bit of a mess. Yeah, like I enjoy chilling out and spending time with my friends. I enjoy going out. I'm not at the pub, obviously, as much as I would have been in the past, but I like going out for dinner with my friends. You know, I like getting away and just really spending time with people. I think I'm kind of like, this is a laugh, because one of my nicknames is Demanda among my friends because of my because of my demanding nature. So they think that's quite funny. But yeah, I just like crack to spending time. Like whenever my best friend Ruth's home from London later this month, and we were like, right, well, what will we do? We're getting tea and we're going to chat, and that's kind of it. That's going to be enough, you know, because that's kind of our main thing. I do, like, social wise, I like gigs. I like going to stand up, and I like shows and theatre and art. So I've really missed that during the pandemic. And my heart goes out to all of the people that are working in that industry, because it's been a nightmare. Like, yeah. But certainly it was interesting, because the early part of my career, I did a lot of arts reviews. I would have done a lot of gig reviews. You know, that was kind of how I was able to socialize, because, you know, if you couldn't afford the tickets, then you could, you know, go and do a review. But it was always more fun for your plus one, because you were there at the gig with them and they were just busy enjoying whatever it was, while you were sort of like typing onto your phone and making sure you were filed by deadline. So in the first part of my career, I did that a lot, but then I stopped doing it and just started buying the tickets myself, because I was able to do that and I was able to relax and enjoy it more. But I like a wide variety of, like, music and art stuff. So, you know, it could be ballet, or it could be theatre, it could be, you know, stand up or whatever else. So I like that sort of variety of arts, and I probably get that from my mum as well. Like, she would have been into that when we were younger.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Is the music side, does it come from your mother as well?
Well, Mum would have ran a sort of theatre company whenever we were younger. For it was the Personality Players. They did a lot of stuff in the arts theatre, so we would have been sort of running up and down theatres, you know, while people were rehearsing and that sort of thing. And you know, she like speech and drama. We all did that, you know. Whenever we were kids as well. So my brother's very into the arts. He's my theatre plus one because we both love it so much. So he did drama at school. I don't know whether I didn't really, maybe I was too afraid of sort of like embarrassing myself, but I didn't really get into drama at school. Maybe that's what you were talking about from people that knew me from when I was younger. People might have expected that it would have been something that I do, and it's definitely something that I enjoy, but I never sort of put myself out there, you know, to perform on stage, whereas my brother did. You know, he's in nursing now or whatever, but we both love all that. I can't wait to get back to the theatre, just get back to a live show, to a live performance, and enjoy that. That'd be great.
You talked about your friend in London, who I take it comes to see you, or vice versa. Do you have a favourite place where you go for a holiday? I don't mean a long holiday. I mean just to get out of the city. Is there somewhere that is particularly relevant to you or meaningful for you?
Well, whenever we were younger, like we had a caravan in Carnlough, and we would have gone to like Newcastle and Portstewart, and I like Donegal as well, and I like Derry too because we had cousins there. But a lot of my friends are kind of all over Britain and over Europe as well. So I like to sort of try and do trips to them. And I love going to Glasgow. If I was to move like whenever I was deciding about university, my sister had gone over to Glasgow. So she was already there, which probably helped, even though, you know, as we're a lot closer now than we were as kids. But it probably helped that she was going. And I think that Glasgow felt to me like far enough away that it would be an adventure, but sort of nearly similar enough to home that it wouldn't be too bad or too different or whatever. And I just love Glasgow. The people are great and the city's great. I'm girls that I was friends with at university are still there. You know, I'm hoping to get over to see my friend Mary, hopefully before we're locked down again, which could actually be happening. So yeah, I do love Glasgow. But yeah, it's a strange one because all my girlfriends that are at home are all sort of surrounded by kids, so they're busy with their careers and busy with kids as well, whereas my other friends who are away, like maybe live in Edinburgh or live in London or live in Glasgow or live in, you know, Brussels or different parts or whatever. So it's always lovely whenever they get home where I can get out to see them.
I keep surprising me with these comments about you. I'm told you're fiercely loyal. Do you recognize that as a trait?
Yeah, I think I am. You know, I think that I'm very close with my immediate family, and I have sort of different friends from either my childhood, from primary school, from secondary school, from university, you know, from work. And I've maintained friendships with them for a long time. And I like to think that is somebody that I am, that, you know, that I'm sort of a decent enough woman. I'm not, you know, I'm not a perfect person or anything, but I think I'm a good enough woman. That's kind of all you can really hope for in life, that's how people might view you.
Yeah, no. If what people say about you is you're decent, you're halfway there. I listened to a number of your podcasts, and I know you've done a number of podcasts in and around the Colony Centre as well, and different stuff. And I don't know why you're conscious of this, and maybe it is something you're conscious of, but you have, and you've done it again today as we were speaking, you have mentioned young women in particular getting into the profession. Is it something that you feel strongly about? Is it something that you speak from personal experience, that need for women to push the glass ceiling out, let alone up?
Yeah, I think so. Like, you know, I've said on many occasions that the Northern Ireland, or the North, however you choose to describe it, I'm easy on both. You know, I'm sort of relaxed about the whole thing. You know, I didn't partition the place. I think that the best way to describe it. I've seen how difficult it can be for women from all spheres of life here. I can see, you know, from speaking the battle for women's reproductive rights, the battle for LGBT rights. There's a lot of sort of unfairness and sort of unjust sort of feelings within this place, and there's a lot of gaslighting and a lot of very frustrating kind of politics. And I am interested in, you know, giving everybody a fair shout, but also helping to platform girls and women to give them encouragement, because I think that, you know, there's a lot of confidence building that's required among some people. There's a lack of opportunity for other, and I can see, you know, any woman in society here that puts their sort of, you know, steps forward with their opinion, they're met with like a real wall of misogyny, and that's something I'm very conscious of. So it's something I've always been interested in and challenging. But I don't know whether I knew what the name for it was until feminists started saying to me, you know, you're a feminist journalist or a feminist writer or a feminist whatever. I'm like, oh, right, okay. Because I've never really bothered with too many labels around myself. So it was kind of people saying to me, you know, this is what you're doing with that. And I was like, well, you know, fair enough. And I'm keen to sort of push that on, and, you know, through women in media and through, you know, I'm doing a fellowship at the minute on media representation. And, you know, I'm happy enough to share my learning with younger women, because I'm confident enough in my own ability. I don't really see other people as competition. I see myself as my own competition that I'm trying to just constantly craft and make better what I'm doing. So it was actually Jerry Moriarty from the Irish Times, whenever I was talking to him about what we do, and he said to me, it's not a trade and it's not a profession. He said it's a craft and you're going to be working on it your whole life. So I've kind of just done that and sort of gone on with my own business, and maybe I've got it wrong sometimes, but hopefully I've got it more right than wrong, and I'm just really happy that it's something I'm allowed to do for work.
Our hour is almost up.
Right.
Or not, it's went very quickly, and I've enjoyed it all. And I'm gonna, if I get finished with two questions. One's quite simple, and the other's perhaps a wee bit longer. But is it getting better for women?
I think it is, but I think that, you know, women have the same struggle no matter what part of the world they're from. We're just all at different stages of it. And I think it's very important for other societies to look at what we're doing. So where there's a win somewhere, that's, you know, you can't just sit back and let that be a win. You have to keep going and keep moving with it, because there's always someone that's going to try and sort of put a block on women's rights. And yeah, that's something I'm very conscious of.
The more difficult question is plans for the future.
Ooh, I'm going to try and get a bit healthier. I'm going to try and get the work-life balance a bit better. I think that's something that I was thinking about this. It was a random program. It was one of those, you know, build a house in the country kind of programs. And the guys that had built the house were talking about the lifestyle that they wanted. And I don't know whether I've necessarily given that too much consideration. I've just been constantly working all the time, that I've never really thought about what a good sort of breakdown of my time might look like. But yeah, I definitely want to spend a bit more time on non-work stuff, and also diversifying from what I'm doing, because, you know, I'm not saying that it gets samey or anything like that, because it's still like a real buzz and a real privilege or whatever, but, you know, I'm open to sort of different opportunities and new challenges, and happy just to see where that might take me.
Is there anything that frightens you in terms of your work? I mean, I know you're very confident, and I know you're very self-critical, and I know you're very assured, but you just mentioned there about diversitizing your talent. Is there stuff that still to this day, after all these awards and this experience and all this, is there stuff that you still would be hesitant about doing?
Not particularly. No, I don't think so. I think I would just jump into sort of anything and feel that I could. I used to feel a little bit intimidated talking to academics, because I knew that they were smarter than I was.
That's true, but anyway.
Yeah, but now I'm sort of you know, I understand where they're coming from, and just sort of get their expertise out there without, you know, having to worry that I don't know the inner workings of their specialist topic. But no, not in particular. Like see, part of you mentioned there the word, you know, frightened. Part of the buzz of journalism is that sort of sickening feeling that you get whenever you're doing something live or whenever you have a deadline. It's actually part of the enjoyment. It's probably, you know, I don't know what it says about journalists that we enjoy that, but I love the challenge of it, you know, and it is a buzz. And then once it's done, it's done.
This is what you shouldn't do when you're on an interview like this, is they're telling me my time's up. And I don't want to look away because it'll disturb your thinking.
The shepherd's crook and pull you off.
That's likely to happen. So listen, I want to thank you for your time. And I know it's difficult. You just had finished one interview, you're straight into this conversation with me. And I asked questions that you didn't expect me to ask, and you answered them all very well. So from that award-winning journalist to the award-winning author you're going to be, I have every confidence in that. Can I thank you? Can I also remind you that we made the prediction that you're going to be an award-winning author on Scéalta? So listen, thank you. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been very entertaining and very incisive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amanda Ferguson. Thank you.